Hey everybody, welcome back to another all-new X's for Show, your premier comic book and media response show. I'm Nico, and you can check me out at Nico Action.
And I'm TK. You can find me at TK Elemental.
And I'm so sorry, Capo. I forgot you were up in the corner.
Rude. You know what? It's just TK today, folks. No Nico. None whatsoever. No, it's fine. I forgive you because I am a forgiving producer, and you can find me at Kevo Reilly.
All right, my shame. So we are here to talk about Ghost Riders. We're here to talk about the last leg of Ghost Rider, the sort of post-Johnny Blaze dudes, most of whom are not exactly dudes. So that's pretty fun. TK, these are the Ghost Riders that I think we're kind of in it for.
These are the Ghost Riders that I got into it for, but now I'm in it for all of them.
They're all your friends.
Yeah.
Every flaming one of them. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's great. And speaking of flaming ones of us, we did not want to discuss this round of Ghost Riders without bringing in a little extra help. And so we are bringing in our very own, it makes sense when we get to it, Staten Island native, I promise it's coming, Jonah.
Hi, everyone. I'm not in Staten Island right now.
And where can everybody find you?
Not in Staten Island, but you can find me on the internet at Peak Jonah. That's Peak.
All right. So here's the thing. There's a Christmas special for Robbie Reyes' Ghost Rider that Jonah covered for the show back when it was just a podcast a billion trillion years ago that he had a special connection with.
Yeah, it was a precursor to a lot of Infinity comics. It was written by one fellow Staten Islander, Method Man.
And so, it only felt right. And we are here to talk about a number of, the cooler Ghost Riders in some ways. Not that the other ones aren't cool, because like TK said, here to love all the Ghost Riders, right? Ghost Ride, the Ghost Ride, the Ghost Ride, right? But one of the things that these Ghost Riders offer is a little bit less, I'm a big scary man with a flaming head. And they offer shades of, I'm a lady with a flaming head. Or I am decidedly, Latinx with a flaming head. Or I'm also a sorcerer supreme. This really is a whom's whom of Ghost Ride Supreme.
I think this is where it finally starts to let itself be a little more fun. I feel like Aaron kind of knew that the series needed something more, but he went with a really big epic rather than doing a lot of really gritty, hard riding bikes through America stuff. He really wanted to make it everything. And I love that. And there's a degree to which it was fun the way Lord of the Rings is fun. But there's a certain lack of casual fun, joy, recognizability of your own life in basically any part of Ghost Rider up to this point. And we start to get a little bit more of that. We start to see how Ghost Rider can be part of the other parts of the Marvel Universe too, not just the hell parts. And it's just fun is good. There's nothing wrong with a little fun.
Yeah, I mean, just find that little bit of hellfire in your heart wherever you can. Now, Jonah, when I think about Ghost Rider and you, I feel like Johnny Blaze, Danny Ketch, they're a little bit harder sells for you. Other than pretty, they're pretty. Don't get me wrong. They're still cool, right? No one's coming for anybody. All positive, pro everyone. No one gets less than a B, right? But if I say to you, one of them is a crazed Latina religious zealot who's just out to stab everybody. One of them is, of course, the incredible Kushala. And the other is, the coolest superhero in the whole world. He's just the coolest superhero ever, Robbie Reyes. I think that's a little bit more your jam.
Yeah, it's actually, to be fair, I did really enjoy Ben Percy's take on Johnny. It was this very, the best way I can describe it is gritty, and not like, Flyers Gritty, though that would be hysterical
I would.
if Gritty somehow
If-
made his way into the Marvel Comics.
I think Gritty Rider is. Oh my God, he rides a Zamboni.
Ooh, that's in the offing.
Gritty on a Zamboni.
Make it happen.
Is the Ghost Rider that Philly really needs you Johns to draw.
True.
Oh goodness. But the added idea that Ghost Rider, there are multiple spirits of vengeance. That there can be multiple Ghost Riders given at once because there are multiple people who have to have their sins crawling on their back, and multiple people who are allowed to have flaming heads. I resonate a little bit more with Robbie, who's a little bit younger. He has this really cool car. He's friends with all the young Avengers. He's just super hot. It's all there. Kushala is just badass. I think the concept of Ghost Rider gets infinitely cooler when you apply it to all these different kind of vehicles. You look at, we're later going to talk about Ghost Rider 10,000 BC, who rides a woolly mammoth. Like, that's cool.
It's a million. It's that old. It's a million because it's exactly the way the evolution of humankind works, so that there were woolly mammoths a million years ago.
I don't. Science, timey-wimey, we're going to hand wave that. It's not accurate, but sure.
So now I do want to bring up a big thing to get us a bit further into this big question. And I want to just start us off by moving into when we're talking. I'm so sorry. I had the wrong script up and then I got really confused. When you're talking about Ghost Riders, this new generation of Ghost Riders, I think one of the things that really stands out to me is there is like a diversity factor, right? And I'm very curious what led to what feels a little bit more like they're still churning out like new white Captain Americas, but I feel like the Ghost Rider has really been given a special place in the Marvel Universe as sort of expressing the voice of the voiceless at times. And I think there's a lot of recognizable anger within the kind of communities that are frequently marginalized by comics, but for other reasons. And I wonder if that's been part of the push to sort of diversify the universe of Ghost Rider while still, of course, making room for the classics.
I don't want to be cynical about it, but I also think it's much safer to try in a property that doesn't have as many eyes on it. And I like that. You've got two options. It can be like X-Men, where there are tons of eyes on it, but there's also tons of characters, and you can kind of fudge a little bit and be like, we introduced this really important new transmutant who nobody else will touch and who is not going to be leading Judgment Day and, who is not appearing nearly as much as the hype around the character that Marvel themselves is putting out would really let you believe. But we did still get this character, and she is amazing, and Charlie Jane Anders has written her through some awesome stuff. I think she has a ton of potential. I hope other people use her. But it would be very different if they said the new Captain America, the one who you're going to see the most, who's being written by J. Michael Straczynski, Jason Aaron, is a trans woman. That would just be, there's only one Captain America. All eyes are on Captain America. We really saw it with Spider-Man, with what's happened with Miles Morales in good ways, but there was an ugly backlash, and there was some very ugly voices amidst the voices that were totally stoked about Miles Morales.
We saw it with Sam Cap too, when Sam Wilson
exactly
go over for Cap.
Not that many voices for Ghost Rider saying like this emblematic series of my life or my childhood or my experience can't be played by an indigenous woman. I just can't have it. So, it's a safe place to do it. And it's also, I think, even high concept, but also in its own lore, a safe place in terms of like the idea of retribution and vengeance exists throughout cultures and is pretty easy for any particular person to tap into in their own way.
Yeah, I mean that was the whole thesis of like the multiverse of Ghost Riders that we encountered in the Aaron run, actually, so it really is that sense of sort of dynamic openness, I think, that really lends itself to growing the Spirit of Vengeance catalog, as it were. And I want to talk about in that catalog, perhaps the most underserved of the Ghost Riders, Alejandra Jones. This is the cutsiest, shortsiest. They did not give this woman a chance. She first debuts kind of sorta in Ghost Rider .1, but really Ghost Rider #1. That first arc is like 1 to 5, and that .1 really not about her. I do not have a lot of words to say about how dirty they did Alejandra Jones, but I will say that one of the things that they tried to do was they tried to give her a legacy by turning her into this fucking monster. And she like vaguely was involved, I think, in Cult of Carnage stuff. I think there was a danger in pushing so hard against type for Ghost Rider as sort of the follow-up to so many big things that had just happened for Ghost Rider Mythos. That's a whole lot of S and TH sounds that would have really made my elementary school speech pathologist really proud that I was able to just get through. Having a lisp and needing to say speech pathology. So I don't know. I really love this character until I read her. That's the truth of it. She's great until you read her. But man, the idea of a female Ghost Rider who was trained to Ghost Ride, that's fucking bangers.
Go ahead, Jonah.
About to say, you guys are dueling for it. Go for it. Come on.
She's there. She's, no wig, no lashes, still serving to us. Yeah, it's just one of those things where they were probably trying something new and trying to do something different and realized, this really isn't going to pan out. We don't really know what we're going to do. They do that with a lot of characters, I find, that they're like, hey, we're going to try to make this character a thing. And then they put the character barely in something and like, why didn't this become a thing? What? And you're like, you didn't put anything into the character. There's no real love here. There's no craftsmanship. What are you talking about? And they get mad at us, be like, fine, I guess you just want the same thing again. And then that's why we can't have really cool characters like this. But I don't really know if she's cool. She's just kind of there. But the concept of learning to become a Ghost Rider, I think, is fascinating and inherent.
Like seriously, Ghost Rider summer camp her whole life. It's crazy.
I guess maybe that might not resonate with people who are Ghost Rider fans, where it's this kind of idea of not so much kind of chosen as opposed to training for it. I think it adds an interesting kind of difference and dissonance to the, kind of what Ghost Rider represents. But what do I know?
I mean, I think you're onto a lot of it. I just, for one thing, Rob Williams, I feel so bad, has one of those Marvel catalogs where, like, if you go look at his issues, he is very published at Marvel for like 3 years and then nothing. And they're all these kinds of stories where, again, there's no risk to anybody if they're not good. It really, when you start to accumulate these for a project like this, you do kind of start to wonder what Marvel's doing, man. I mean, this has been decades now of just like cranking stuff out that they don't promote, that is difficult to ask audiences to care about. And then, the metrics for what caring is are so high compared to what you're providing. Like if they were happy with 5,000 people reading a book and saying, oh my gosh, I absolutely loved this, they would have a lot of successes on their hands. And I get why financially that doesn't make sense, but then why are they publishing so many books where 11,000 is the absolute maximum you're ever going to get for purchases? I don't really get it. This is kind of a character that just, I don't know how you would sell her to make people really excited. I think the origin story is really cool, but it's very esoteric. It's also weird that it's biblical Adam after we just got out of heaven and hell stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's real weird that it's biblical Adam in a cowboy hat.
Biblically accurate Adam.
Exactly. That they are all like vaguely Tex-Mex, but in a cult, like an ancient cult. Also weird. There's a lot of elements here, none of which I'm like, I could make this work. Like we could all make this work, but somebody has to back us up on this. If you're going to create a Ghost Rider out of thin air from a Tex-Mex cult that is actually founded by Adam, who is fully leaning into a heritage that is not his own, you've got to really put marketing behind that. Like she's got to be in video games. There's got to be other stuff happening. We need cameos. The only cameo she got,
literally be meeting outside of every Target in America.
The only cameo we got was that Circle of Four, which you and I had read previously for, I forget what, but some coverage that we
Venom?
did. It was Venom adjacent. I don't remember what we were trying to get to.
4?
I truly couldn't tell you at this point.
Yeah, me
but we did it, and I remember that was the first time I had really read
Wolverines and Ghost Riders crossing over, leading up to
Yep.
Weapons of Vengeance.
Yep, nailed it. That was the first time I had read Alejandra, and she was fine. She's cool, but like that character in those 4 issues, so divorced from a backstory that is most of, like, being tied to her backstory is most of her time on panel as a Ghost Rider. I don't know. It just, you can see why it doesn't work, even if you can see why you would like it to work.
And I wanted it to work. I was all in. I think I bought in a little too hard on Fear itself for a minute, because I was really riding that Matt Fraction bus. So like, I thought everything coming out of that system was going to be bangers. And Fear itself is kind of a real rough read, not a happy time. And this Ghost Rider comes out of that, and then she jumps into another crossover. And then like, they literally just put at the end of her issue in a letters column style letter, hey guys, Rob Williamson here. Book's over, I guess. And I thought there'd be a lot more, but I guess this is it. And if this is it, that's okay. We got to the ending we wanted, I guess. And so the ending is the one thing that makes the book
XOXO, Gossip Girl.
Yeah, no, seriously, XOXO, Gossip Hellbeast. And like, that's actually the part that makes the ending so rough. I actually, if you're asking me, right, like we're marathoning a TV show for a project that we're doing on the network in a little bit. And we're kind of watching it almost all in like 2 days. Because it's bingeable. Is it good? Not really, but it's bingeable and it's entertaining, right? And that's where I'm at with this Ghost Rider. This is a 1-day read. Like the whole complete Robbie Williams Alejandra is like 180 pages plus another like 60 or 80 pages for Circle of Four. It's like fucking nothing, man. You could bust this out in a night. This if you're like flying like if you're doing like LaGuardia to like LAX, you would have time to read this 3 times. So I really think this is a quick, easy binge, but that last issue does so much to upset Marvel canon that has nothing to do with anything. And like, it's the one thing that doesn't work. But other than that, Alejandra, my dear, rest in blazes, whatever it is that you Ghost Riders do. Sorry you're dead, but
Go Blaze.
Where
girl.
we are.
TK, do you have any last thoughts on the first like Ghost Ridestress?
Yeah, also she's not technically dead. She's a weird abomination. She appeared going on 5 years ago now, but like she could come back. Who knows? Maybe, you know, there's some Ghost Rider news. Maybe it applies to her.
I mean, I really can't wait to see if like Tom DeFalco is given one more shot at the MC2 and he just randomly picks her to be the Ghost Rider that shows up.
That'd
Stranger
be
things
good.
have happened.
That'd be the good stuff. No, I get why you like this character, and I think if I had experienced this part of Fear itself at the time, I might also feel similarly. Well, not at the time. If I had experienced it, you know, on my own doing Ghost Rider research, I might have felt similarly. There's just all the cards are stacked against her, and that's just a real bummer. It's a real bummer to see somebody's original creation that isn't bad. You know, it's not offensive. It's not poorly written. Might not be the most exciting thing I've ever read, but not all things can be. It's a bummer to see those do a lap and then just get pushed off the track and ignored.
I loved Dua Lap's track on the Barbie soundtrack.
Truly.
Same.
Bangers. As you know, as somebody who is kind of like, you're kind of like my Ghost Rider guru now, you know, like you're the guy who digs this canon deeper. So like, do you think we could have had a Kushala without an Alejandra?
Yeah, 100%.
So this isn't a you don't deserve me at my Kushalas if you can't handle me at my Alejandras situation?
No, not at all. And again, I think a lot of it comes down to not enough people care about Ghost Rider canon, lore, anything to say like, you know, I need another woman to pave the way for the next woman. You really can do whatever you want here, I think. And like kind of in a bad, I'm saying that not in a good way. Like you can do whatever you want and you might produce a great thing, but Marvel probably, no matter how good it is not really going to give you the time of day. Like that this current run is getting the amount of issues it has and the big, you know, fanfare it has is kind of crazy to me because I don't think it's doing banger numbers. I think Ben Percy is just one of their most solid company guys.
And maybe they just had the marketing.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this Ghost Rider is definitely getting marketed more than any I have seen in a long time. Since, you know, Robbie Reyes showed up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
You know, Jonah, this is a Lady Ghost Rider, and you've experienced other Lady Ghost Riders, but you know, do you think you're going to go back and grab her trade and do that 300 issues? 300 pages.
No.
Well, okay. I guess I kind of think we are saying Alejandra kind of comes in last place, which is like I mean, in general, this is the first Ghost Rider that we're all sort of like, that
it's Max Parrish.
But I was about to say that wasn't like technically not really a fucking Ghost Rider. Like for me, you sort of need like Ghost Rider the title, right? I would also accept you Ghost Road for a team. So like if there was a Ghost Rider in 26 issues of the Champions, fine. That's a Ghost Rider. But like Max Parrish, Naomi Kale, Naomi Spinach,
Naomi Kale was absolutely a Ghost Rider, but she's not the last.
But yeah, and so like I feel like there's some of them that like even if they're amazing and they really are, you kind of needed a title. You kind of like so I feel like Alejandra is kind of like last place of the real Z's.
Yeah, it's a tie between her and Caleb. Caleb, I want to give a little bit of a pass to because he is a black man as a Ghost Rider, but I want to not give him that pass because Garth Ennis wrote him.
So he's really a white man.
Right, exactly.
In black ink?
What's that?
He's really a white man in black ink?
Yeah, precisely. So yeah, I don't know. She is a bottom tier Ghost Rider, but you know, potential. There's potential there.
You know, now speaking of Ghost Riders with what seems like limitless potential, I don't know that there are so many characters in the Marvel universe that so changed the way people thought about an entire franchise. The way maybe a Venom changed things for Spider-Man, the way a Deadpool changed things for the X-Men, even more than Cable. I think truly Deadpool eclipsed Cable culturally, though I think Cable still carries a very specific caveat within the context of the Marvel Universe proper. But, Miles Morales, Robbie Reyes, and Kamala Khan. That's about it. There is just such a short list of characters that redefined a name so holistically. Felipe Smith and Tradmore. I was obsessed with Tradmore because of the strange talent of Luther Strode. Super fucking crazy indie book. Really wacky. A lot of fun. But this book was not great at first. I don't think it's that Felipe Smith isn't talented. But there are some like sensitivity things that really needed to be thought out. If it was a book about appealing to an audience that had been underserved, it was then underserving other audiences with some just insensitivities, not like, taking up waste. But, I'm Latin. That's one of the things I love the most about Robbie. We share this cultural heritage. But once everybody kind of figured out that maybe this wasn't the right fit creatively, even though we are so grateful to that team for creating the character, Robbie Reyes goes on to become one of the most important pillars of the Marvel universe, period, for a minute. And then they forget about him. But now he's got a new title, and it's the All Rider. And I all sure love that. And guys, talk to me about the coolest character. He's the coolest superhero. You know how Susie is just the coolest Rugrat, and Fonzie is just the coolest person on Happy Days. You know what I mean? Robbie is just the coolest superhero.
Kike, would you like to start?
I love Robbie. I don't think Felipe Smith writes Robbie as very cool. That is one thing he has going for him. Aaron does not. Aaron writes Robbie as very insecure in a way that I really love.
Same.
But Robbie is not cool on the Avengers. And that's one of the big heartbreaks of the run is it is about breaking Robbie down entirely by putting somebody who is ready to be a god or ready to go on the journey to become a god amongst all of these people who are already there and having them teach him. And, he finally embraces the mantle of All Rider, and then we never get to see him be the coolest superhero. But you do get a bunch of it in All New and then the Ghost Rider series that comes after. He just is different. It's just a different vision of the character, entirely different. Not, this kid rides motorcycles, but he didn't travel with a carnival, so it's totally different than his brother. This really is a young man with an entirely different experience of what it means to enact vengeance, to ride. What his mode of conveyance is different.
It's a car. It's a
car. It's a cool car. He's a car guy. He has responsibilities. He has his brother that he's taking care of. And Johnny was never taking care of Danny. Let's be very clear of that. As you mentioned, Kamala Khan is just so different than Carol Danvers. Miles Morales is actually probably the most similar to his other person, but it's one of those things where it's two men can be living in Queens, walking down the same streets, going to the same bodega. They are entirely different men living entirely different lives. No matter what they have in common, their experiences are different, and you know, they might be similar in ways that are great for them to connect, but the ways in which they are different are important because we celebrate our differences as well as the things that make us similar.
See
So
Gwyneth Paltrow's masterpiece, Sliding Doors.
it could have gone one way or the other, man.
No one expected the Spider-Man Inquisition.
Stop.
So those three really taking the property that they come from and doing it, giving you a character that does it really differently, I think that's special, and that's what I always will love about Robbie. I do hear totally what you're saying about some of the insensitivities. You know, I mean, that's just, we're never going to stop seeing that in comics, so we really just kind of work through it as best we can.
Now, you know, Jonah, when I brought, you know, to you Robbie Reyes, that's my hero, he is the best, you know, you sort of jumped in pretty healthy, pretty excited. One of the things that I think that Robbie does offer is a chance to not be bogged down by decades of history, and then it's not just a carbon copy of the younger person, of the you know, earlier person in the younger person, right? So what was it about Robbie that made this character feel accessible for you?
I think there's a couple things that go into it. When you have a character that's a little more recent, like Robbie, there's less to feel like you're never going to catch up. You know, if someone was like, I'm going to read every issue of Johnny Blaze as a Ghost Rider, you're going to be in there for a really long time and be like, oh, can I catch up? Not that many people do that kind of idea of being like, I'm going to read every instance. But a lot of people want to go back and be like, okay, kind of where did this character get their start? And it can feel daunting comparative to someone like Robbie, who, because he has less history, because he's a little bit newer comparatively, he has a little less to read, well, comparatively a lot less to read, and it makes it a little accessible.
Okay, so I think Jonah's a little
know,
frozen. Oh, he's back.
Motorcycles are cool, but the concept of we're having. It seems we're having a little bit of technical issues.
What did I tell
Robbie
you?
apparently doesn't want me talking about him.
I was like, so I'm like, Jonah seems to be having a little bit of problems, and all of a sudden you come back in with motorcycles are cool, and so it was just like,
I mean, that's just
Well,
wisdom
they
for the
are.
world.
They are. It's my new favorite thing.
They are. I don't make the rules, but you know who else has listen to rules? Robbie. Because I feel like Robbie kind of breaks a couple of different formats about the idea of being a Ghost Rider, because he doesn't have a motorcycle, he has a car, and then it's, he can kind of turn anything that's technically a vehicle into his ride, and I think that's really interesting and fun. Like one day he's just gonna get on Colossus, and Colossus is that vehicle. It's gonna be a flaming
Giggity.
Colossus.
Well, Banshee did it with Juggernaut, so I think that the precedent has now been set.
No, that's where I'm getting the idea from.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things though that blew my mind was when Robbie, he used a symbiote as a vehicle.
Yeah.
What in the name? That is like some. Okay, so I just do need to say, no writer has created, and I'm going to use the term consequential Ghost Riders. No writer has created more consequential Ghost Riders than Jason Aaron, who has created so many of the ones who exist earlier on. But as TK was about to enumerate, 1000 AD, million BC, he created Robbie. And I had one more that
Did he create Robbie? I thought.
Oh, I'm so sorry, he didn't create Robbie, but there is one more that he did create. Now I can't think of who it was, because I was. Oh, it's gonna kill me. I'll figure it out. But
I mean, a ton from his run.
Because Robbie was Felipe Smith and Trad Moore, and I said that 10 seconds ago.
Yeah.
So I'm annoyed at myself.
I mean, he created a ton of them for his run.
Truly.
Yeah.
I just think that, like, when we're talking about a character who is so dynamic, to give him this ability to do something like to ride a symbiote, that is so next level. And, I'm for the first time actually piecing together Cy Spurrier Heavens on Fire co-designer Cy Spurrier is the guy who gave Banshee a spirit of vengeance.
Right.
So like it's not like in a fool's hands.
Well, and I think that that's one of those, the most exciting thing about Robbie writing other things is not Robbie can do it, but finally somebody has expanded Ghost Rider lore, because now it's something that we see other Ghost Riders doing, and the franchise being so like one demon with one bike or whatever, and you know, nothing else, which has been a 50+ year thing that's getting a little stale in one note. Now we see these cool tricks that like expand the idea of what a Ghost Rider is, what a Ghost Rider can do. And I really like when it's not like this one character that we might take away from you did this really cool trick, but rather this character that you can always remember was the first expanded our knowledge of what these types of characters can do.
You know, it's in that very vein that I think it does kind of make sense that he's no longer Ghost Rider and now he's All Rider, because he can ride anything. It's sort of the way that like you could only go to Dunkin' Donuts so many times, not get donuts, and argue with them changing their name to Dunkin', right? It just makes sense that we kind of recognize that things shift in our expectations. Changing definitions allow the universe to operate within a complex structure. That's why sometimes when people are like, oh, this thing got woke, and it didn't get woke. Changing definitions allow things to operate within an evolving structure, which is why sometimes when you come across something that kind of blows your mind, like my first, I'm reading classic Green Lantern, and it's like 1963 where Hal Jordan is creating like really creative structures, like hands to grab people and to make them feel small. So if their power is their, by their willpower, feeling small makes them feel broken. Ghost Rider didn't have those sorts of creative advances. The sorts of advances it did have tied it back to lineages, which frankly is more of the same puritanical burn the witch shit that is Ghost Rider. So by giving Robbie such an avenue, and not to be like, I'm Latino, let me tell you about it, my friends. But like, I am Latin. I just happen to be on the hazier shade of pale. And so the thing that leads me to is recognizing the ways that Robbie is culturally checkmark. Like, he is not tropishly a checkmark. Culturally, he hits the right points. I mean, I'm just expecting him one day to be like, leave me the burnt parts of the rice at the bottom. Like, that is such a staple.
Threaten his brother with a chancla.
Right? He feels a cultural responsibility to his brother, that he has to take care of him. Now, don't get me wrong. Everybody's got a Salinger's story in their heart where it's white people that won't break apart. No, for real. I'm not being, but there is a certain element to so many Latino families were broken up that there is more of a we must stay together if there's any hope. He works on his car and has a job at a garage because that's how he can afford having sick wheels. Like, hold on. Tasty, I am so sorry that you had a bad experience at Dunkin'. I am going to talk to my manager. That just sucks. Dunkin's so good. It's no Wawa, but it's,
You never take me to Wawa.
It's also not Sheets, which that'll be a spicy debate between people.
Sheets is horrible. Worst convenience store experience of my life. I could do this all day. But I want to talk about good things instead. Jonah, you are also a Latinx man. And you do also have those sorts of cultural hallmarks and touchstones in your life. Was it refreshing seeing them in Robbie, or is that just not something that strikes you in fiction as somebody who like ties more to kind of like the quality of slice of life mundanity over necessarily like specific unique instances?
Truthfully, it's kind of a little bit of both. Personally, in my own, growing up I don't have a lot of the Spanish culture and nuances and history and all these different things because that's just not how my grandmother acted. You know, she moved to Puerto Rico, she came over to the States, still has her accent, but fully was like, nope, I married an Italian man, I'm an Italian woman, and only cooks Italian food and is still horrid like some people. Oh boy. But it is one of those things where I'll watch shows or I'll see media and I'll be like, oh, what could have been? Oh. And I look at Robbie and I'm like, Robbie is for people who like they know him. Like that's someone's primo out there. That's someone's brother. That's like Robbie is that person for so many different readers, and I love that for them, and that makes me happy. But I also enjoy certain aspects of like, okay, how do you kind of ground this character? How do you make this character approachable, likable, and imprintable, where you want your audience to say, "I see myself there."
Well, look at that friendly fucking face.
I mean, that's a face I'd kiss. But speaking of that face, one of the things I really do enjoy about Robbie is that Robbie has a very distinct visual identity amongst ghostwriters. You look at someone like Johnny Blaze and you look at like other ghostwriters similar to that aesthetic, and there's not really a lot of description going on. It's a skull with flames, which is the cool part, but then it's just kind of just a leather jacket and a motorcycle. There isn't a lot of innovation in terms of character design. We look at Robbie and it's like, okay, what are the key visual elements to Ghostwriter? Flaming skull head and whip slash chains. And you kind of look at Robbie and it turns a lot of it on its head, and it goes a little bit against the visual identity of a ghostwriter, but it also really enhances it in a way that's like, oh, it's Robbie's own. You look at his skull and it's not so much skull, it almost looks like a mask, and it's just, this is a little, honestly, this might even be a little more terrifying than just a regular flaming skull head, which is an odd sentiment to say. But you also have his really cool jacket that's also, it ties in with his car. It's a lot of visual identity that coincides with one another, layers upon layers, that really helps Robbie separate and stand out amongst other ghostwriters.
Yes, I agree. I was nodding because like I totally agree. I mean, I feel like, you know, his uniqueness is very Tradmorsian, right? But there's also some levels to him that just really are right time, right place. And TK, you know, when you talk about how like ghostwriters have unique identities, I think Robbie might actually have the most unique, like Jonah said.
I don't know. Kushala is pretty unique too, although she's got the bike. So,
yeah, she has a bike.
She's another one though who I believe could ride anything, but that's for me to write later. Marvel, please call me. Yeah, I mean he does. The visual look, the flaming skull head is very, as you said, Tradmorsy, but it's one of those great things. It's like a Bacalo design where when you get a really great stylizing artist as the creator that originates the character, that does their original design, I feel more often than not that works in the character's favor when other people come in and start drawing them. So when we get to the Aaron run and this diverse cast of artists start drawing Robbie, though they might not have designed him the same way if they were the people that created him, they can't really drastically deviate from those visual cues. So, and Tasty Cake with the mask gives me anime, you know, particularly Bleach vibes. I absolutely see that, and I think that's a really good visual reference, and I would not be surprised if it was one that Tradmore was picking up on. And I think that's kind of a more modern take that we need. And so, yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's always really exciting when a particularly stylized artist creates a character and then that character lasts, because that means I know I'm going to get to see so many great artists who, you know, no matter how great they are, I don't always love their original character designs, or, you know, to take some of the heat off them, the ones that Marvel picks. I was so bummed when Valerio Schiti posted on Twitter some of his alternate designs for Win from Gods, because he does. he designed some really cool ones, some really statement ones, some unique ones that anybody could have taken any of his unique ones and just normied them down when they needed to make him seem like something a straight white man would enjoy. But, unfortunately, Marvel immediately went with, and he said this is the one that they picked, just the most kind of milquetoast white man design. So for a character like Robbie, I'm very excited that that's not where we started with. And now everybody else works off of that template.
You have such a brilliant point about the nature of the artistry relaying the information to subsequent artists. I think about, perhaps the only, character that I put up there with Daredevil and Jean Grey. I think about, John Constantine, who I want to say first drawn by, Rich Vitek and Steve Totleben, I think. But then when it comes time for Hellblazer, it's John Ridgway, who does a lovely job, but is a very perfunctorily British penciler. They kind of all are. They're very that British invasion look. You know what I mean? So when you get to guys like Warren Pleece and Dean Ormstrom and Chris Bacalo and guys who would then make their name on the book, like your Steve Dillon's, please forever Steve Dillon. Like, what a brilliant, perfect penciler. May we never forget how brilliant those pages are ever. Or like, my precious Giuseppe Camuncoli. If it weren't for a design that could be emulated, we wouldn't have significant versions. And I really wonder if, the unique structure of what makes this very dynamic, like that's what translates to this character's success.
Yeah.
So, now I have one big final question for everybody about Robbie. There was an announcement today or I guess recently. It's been ongoing. Marvel has announced that Johnny is taking his final ride, which this is like, it's getting Straysandian. We are really reaching up to like, this is the last Kiss tour, like levels of we're putting it down. Johnny Blaze is retiring and we're getting a specifically new, darker, grittier version of Ghost Rider next year for the 51st anniversary of the character, whatever the fuck that means. This is not the first retirement for this character, Johnny Blaze. And the reason I bring it up here is because they made it very clear for better than a decade, this was Ghost Rider. Everything else was sort of like, I'm reading, like I said, all this Green Lantern. There is Alan Scott who has special titles, right? Don't get me wrong. I just wish they'd call him what he really is, which is so cool it's hard to describe, but that doesn't fit in a superhero name. But you've got Jon Stewart, you've got Kyle Rayner, you've got Guy Gardner, all running around as Green Lantern at the same time as Hal alongside Jess. There's so many people. We just sort of accepted there were more than one Ghost Rider. And now they're making it very clear that there's gonna be one. How do you guys feel about a world that was meant to be inherited by Robbie Reyes, but is instead going to Ben Percy's new creation?
Go ahead, Jonah.
Well, as they say in the pageant world, it just wasn't her time. It kind of blows and it sucks, but it's just kind of the unfortunate kind of way things are, and you kind of just have to roll the punches a little bit and say, well, what could have been, it could have been cool. And I think Robbie got his flowers in a different kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, this is the constant complaint from me lately, which is like, I don't blame anybody who writes these stories or has these ideas. I really blame marketing, publishing, editorial for just kind of making these sweeping decisions and doing the same thing over and over again, just kind of engaging in behaviors that make it frustrating as a reader. There's pretty much no comic content that I don't enjoy on some level. There are often books that I have to say no to because I am not made of money. I had to set DC aside entirely because I don't feel I have the time and resources to understand the canon. And so, I'm just not a DC reader, but it's not because I've read a bunch of DC and I've never read anything where I've been like, these guys don't write very well.
I mean, they're the same guys, so
exactly. And it's the same thing with Marvel. There's so many things. Tom Brevoort just put out his newsletter, and I'm trying to remember what book he was talking about, but somebody wrote and was like, hey, this book is so good, is it going to be an ongoing? And he was like, unfortunately, not enough people liked it, so it's just going to be a mini. And I really hate that mentality that puts all of the blame on us, in that same way. None of us are recycling enough, and that's why the earth is dying. No, it is, as always, the corporations. It is a corporate decision that means that this is not happening, not my inability to buy a book that I can invest in when I don't know what I'm going to be getting out of it. So this Ghost Rider thing just falls in that category of like, I didn't really care about Johnny Blaze prior to Ben Percy's book starting. I was very impressed with how he made me care about him, but I still was really stoked on Kushala and Robbie Reyes. And so that is where, I really wanted to see stuff happen, both of whom have just entirely fallen to the wayside lately. And now you're telling me that the character that you spent all this time getting me invested in, you are retiring, which nobody retires in Marvel, guys. It's almost getting like,
hurry, before he goes back into the Marvel vault.
I'm not going to laugh at it. Well, I wish. I really do. I'm at the point where I'm almost not laughing about it anymore, because it's just like, of course Wolverine didn't die of course Wolverine was back in the form of Old Man Logan immediately, and then within 5 years, I think it was within 3 years, he was back. So like, stop using these words like last ride, retiring, all new Ghost Rider. It is a new Ghost Rider, but there are other Ghost Riders anyway. And now I'm sitting in this position where I don't know, is this the one Ghost Rider because you're going to change canon and say that, all the other ones are not Ghost Riders and there's something more going on? Or is this the new Ghost Rider because he's following Johnny and we ignore the others? And just, we know nobody has a Kushala book coming up for the next 2 years and a Robbie book for the next 2 years. And by that time, you'll have forgotten that we said this. And this new character will be introduced and you can like them or not, but I'm just really tired of the games. I'm perfectly fine for Johnny to not be Ghost, for the story to end with Johnny losing the spirit of vengeance and for somebody else to get it. I would like that to be in a world where Robbie is coming back from the dark void in which he's rebuilding his car. I know these things can coexist. So, I'm left really feeling the cognitive dissonance of, what are you guys trying to sell me, and how can I get excited about it when I can't trust you?
I need to know, Tasty Cake, is that Morph from the Exiles? That's a huge question for me. I'm dying to know. But TK, to that exact point, I think the big bait and switch on all of this for me in my heart right now is exactly that. Are we going to throw out all of this other canon? Is it going to be like, oh, those other guys, they're not really Ghost Riders.
Right.
Like, that was something that I saw negotiated, when they decide that there's a Guardians and a Corps. As I'm reading Green Lantern, the original Green Lantern, he gets a special designation, and his ring is a unique type of magic because there's no way to agree with it all. But if they had gone with the other thing, oh, all of these other Green Lanterns are fake, only Alan Scott is real, what the fuck would we have thought as readers? And like, I do worry that is exactly where they're going with this.
And we saw it happen with Ghost Rider, where the Ghost Rider is actually Noble Kale having resurrected, and that's what Danny Ketch has. And Johnny Blaze never had that. Johnny Blaze had Zarathos, and they did, they said that in the 90s to kind of establish why Danny Ketch was Ghost Rider and to bring more lore and background into it. Whatever, that exists now, so we can't entirely ignore it. But within a decade, we are ignoring it. Within 2 decades, Aaron is saying that Ghost Riders are a weapon of heaven, and we still never get a clear explanation of what that meant in terms of Noble Kale being the Ghost Rider for Danny Ketch and Zarathos being the Ghost Rider for Johnny Blaze. So the most frustrating thing is, even if you say these definitive canon things, like, you know, Robbie is no longer the Ghost Rider, it is both true and not true in a way that you are essentially telling me you now have to suffer through our editorial mandates until such time as a writer that we like who says, I'm going to turn Ghost Rider on his head. It actually turns out that Robbie was a Ghost Rider the whole time and he's coming back. And it's like, well, why did I have to wait 5 years for that? Which it seems like we might be moving, you know, we might be moving towards this period where we don't see Robbie for an even longer period of time. I'm just tired of the games. I'm tired of them with everybody.
Okay, so real quick, I see that Tasty Cake has said that he is thinking the animated series morph.
Oh, I love that morph.
That morph is very cool.
I am that morph too.
Was like blown out into super extreme proportions for Exile's morph, who is that morph to the extreme.
It is so wild to me that morph has never come back.
The animated series morph? Or
that,
the Exile's morph?
No, that animated series morph has never shown up as that guy. Because, like, the thing about Exile's morph is that he's sort of part changeling. He also, you know, is all white. He's a very specific character. Morph just being, like, a regular-looking brown-haired dude. It's wild to me that he has never come back. Hi, Morph.
If you think about the creation time on these sorts of things, they actually had to have designed Morph for the Age of Apocalypse before they knew about Morph from the animated series. So,
yeah, you're probably right, yeah.
It actually means that this character was just something that it was just really in the cultural zeitgeist.
Yeah.
And I cannot speak highly enough of the Judd Winnick run of Exiles. It's like literally one of the best ever runs of comics. Like, oh my God, what a perfect slice of comic heaven.
By one of the best ever real world housemates. Let's just make sure we never forget that, comics people.
Absolutely. Is he Dan? No, he's not Dan, you stupid bitch. But so few people. God, that quote literally made me the man I am today.
He's neither gay Dan.
Okay, he's not gay Dan. But speaking of, oh no, we've just lost gay Jonah. Well, gay Jonah's back. Terrific.
Yay.
Oh my God, his gay back and his gay front. But listen, gay Jonah.
Love them both.
Talk to me about your last thoughts on Robbie Reyes and how he makes you feel as, you know, I mean that kind of seriously, as a comic reader. Like, what is your, you know, temporarily what could be a long period of time parting shot to Robbie?
So I talked about it earlier, but because Robbie's younger, Robbie kind of gets to interact with some of the younger characters. A lot of the Infinity comics have Robbie hanging out with the Young Avengers, people like Shang-Chi, the younger crowd of like these cool superheroes who kind of just all hang out together. Essentially, it's just friends. They're all these cool 20-somethings all in New York, and they all have their own apartments and their own places, but they all kind of just hang out and you'll get like dumplings together. He's got a really cool cat. Yeah, Robbie's just... because he gets to have these kind of connections, I think Robbie comes across as like, oh, Robbie in universe is friends with the characters that I love. So that means by association, I must love Robbie. Comparative to someone like Johnny, who's like, not that teaming up with Wolverine isn't cool, but I don't know how many people has Wolverine teamed up with at this point? Everybody. It's kind of like, oh, you kind of have to relegate him a little bit grittier. I mean, to be fair, he did team up with Elsa Bloodstone, so I can't complain that much. But it is, Robbie's connections seem to be a little more non-work related, a little more genuine in terms of like, it's very similar to like Drag Race Queens or like friends in real life and they hang out and they do stuff and it's like, oh, that's cool. It's like you get rid of the persona, you get rid of the idea of like, oh, I'm a comic book hero. You take the mask off, they take off their whatever, and they're just a human again. And it's like, oh, they hang out with other people. That's really cool.
I like that. That is a solid read on Robbie. And I think now we are moving into who is far and away my favorite Ghost Rider, the Ghost Rider that got me into Ghost Riders. I am, of course, talking about the woman, the legend, the newly released onto Marvel Contest of Champions, Kushala, the Demon Rider. Jonah, what is your experience with Kushala?
So I very much enjoy Kushala. She's got this really, she has this really interesting design. She has this really interesting character. This idea of, similar to Robbie, turning the idea of what it means to be a Ghost Rider within the same rules, but twisting everything to format to this new character to usher in the new era of this idea of comic readers and this comic character. Most of my experience with her is, what was it? Midnight Suns, where she was like, "What? I am a sorcerer supreme, and what?" And everyone was like, "Okay, girl, you're cool. You can hang out with us." And Ileana's like, "I've hung out with demons before. It's fine." And then she kind of just, I don't know, berated them in a really funny, like, cool way, where she was like, "I'm above all of you. I have much more important work. Why am I here?" But never felt like she wasn't a part of the team in that sense. She was the loner within the team, but that's all kind of an oxymoron. And she's just badass. I feel like Marvel has been really trying to do their due diligence with the Indigenous and Native American community, and like giving and delivering these really cool heroes that celebrate their heritage and their culture and their traditions in a way that's like bringing it to the people who don't have that, especially written by amazing Indigenous writers. It really is. She's one of those characters where I'm like, no, she like, very similar to Robbie. She checks off boxes and is like, she's getting there.
Well, and I'm trying to get it up really quickly, so somebody else needs to talk. I just want to say, it's coming.
No, it's loading.
It's loading. It's loading. It's loading. All right, that's Chili. Hold on. She's gone. Come on, log in. Oh my god, I'm so tired.
So now we've got also, just because it's on your screen, we've got Shield.
It went away so fast.
Yeah, because you got good internet.
Were you just showing us the image, or do you have a Kushala you're going to pull up?
Oh, I have a Kushala I'm going to pull up.
I'm very jealous.
Yeah, I was kind of...
You spent, didn't you? You paid for that Kushala.
No, I wish I did, because then I wouldn't feel so guilty. But
oh, you just rolled it with all
no,
pure luck?
Amazon Prime has.
Oh,
this
that's
new
right.
thing.
2 days after I got rid of my Amazon Prime subscription.
Now I also have a Chalith.
Chilth.
Thank you. I don't know why I keep doing that, but she's not like crazy good, so please don't be too jealous. She's 3-star, but I do have a legitimate Kushala.
As opposed to an illegitimate Kushala.
I have her, and she's amazing. I do love her. She is her signature ability is Spirit Rider, which is Kushala's connection to her spirit of vengeance grants her immunity to all bleed and incinerate. God, I need her at 6-star. All attacks deal energy damage. Wow, personal damaging effects are paused during Kushala's special attacks. And then she has additional abilities. This is absurd. I can't stand it. I'm so I love her. Anyway, I think she's great. Sorry, thank you.
Well, no, come back to it. Talk to me a little bit about where you came into the Kushala world. How she came into the world for you.
I had walked away from comics, and when I came back, I was feeling real spiky about creators and titles, and I saw that Doctor Strange and the Sorcerer Supreme was a book that people were like, nobody's really reading it, but the smart people are. So I was like, oh well, then that's my book. That's my book. I'm super into that. And so I started reading it. I had just kind of gotten back into comics. Like I said, I think it was ending as I started reading it. And I was just mind blown. I thought the idea that they would do something like that, like we have Swordmaster, who is also Iron Fist now, but that's sort of like after the fact. They created her with this intent, and it doesn't exactly read like it doesn't read like a Power Ranger who's also a VR trooper. It doesn't have this like unreasonable overlap. So I was just so taken by her that when I saw that none other than Grammy award winning, Billboard #1, multi-platinum, household name, the Black Eyed Peas member. I'm being silly, but when I saw Taboo of the Black Eyed Peas was going to be working on this character alongside a number of other characters, I was kind of curious what would bring a guy who, even if you're super into comics, when you're like, and I'm going to put it out there, like Black Eyed Peas famous, like Black Eyed Peas wrote the songs for Doritos. So you can just fuck yourself thinking they're just dumb party music. They're dumb party billionaires. So, you don't always think like, that's a property that Marvel's going to let that guy write, because Marvel's not going to waste Taboo of the BEP. And I'm being silly, but I'm not on something they don't believe in. And so I just thought her trajectory is fascinating. It's kind of like the opposite of America Ferrera, where like America Ferrera keeps picking these projects that keep her completely in the public eye, and everybody keeps talking about them, but never about her being in them or her being associated with them in any way. Kushala keeps being attached to these things that nobody fucking talks about, but they mention that Kushala's in the book. And so I just think that that's really interesting, that these two women who came out of nowhere and the whole world was like, wow, these women are going somewhere. Because clearly they have the same take no prisoners energy.
I love that.
I'm telling you. So, TK, I think Kushala is like your favesies.
Yeah.
Right? Now, like, when it comes to Kushala and her design, do you feel like she's maybe gotten the short stick on design? Because I think maybe sometimes she's gotten the short stick on design. She looks incredible, but I feel like she's maybe not as conceived visually for style.
Well, yes and no. I think she's not conceived visually for standard superhero style.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Yes,
which I think is actually a great thing, except for we know that Marvel probably is not going to be super excited about a character that is not conceived for standard superhero style, except if we conceive her that way, we very likely are cutting off a lot of her native roots and the things that make her exciting as a character. I think the Kushala Infinity comic, which I really recommend everybody go read. Ghost Rider Kushala Infinity comic, also written by Taboo and B. Earl. That gives her a few different looks and styles, and I think I love the way she looks. I just I guess we haven't seen enough of her to see it take on a form where you're like, Doctor Strange. It's the blue and the red cape and the gold. And Kushala, I think it's the blue jacket with the fur line and the headband. And I just want to see it a little bit more. I do want it to get what I was talking about, that kind of multiple iterations through artists, so that you're like, whenever I see the gold headband, I know that I'm about to see Kushala tear some shit up.
Like when you get to see Jean Grey in the cool Phoenix t-shirt. I'm not trying to be so upset. Like, I don't know. I think I've decided if Krakoa and New X-Men, if both eras are over, I like New X-Men more.
Fair?
I don't know. I feel like there's a tightness of storytelling that just the Krakoan era did not have. But like, just to jump back to that moment for a second, that Jean Grey Phoenix t-shirt look that she wore for a couple of issues, it was so tongue-in-cheek. I do not want Kushala to give up any of her native, incredible garb. I just want to see Marvel find a way to bring those two ideas together.
Yeah, I mean, I think you are entirely correct. I think like I said, I think you can always count on her kind of cropped blue coat and her headband. And from there, it's really about seeing how other people interpret and work with the character. And I think, that it's really important that we see a lot of native artists' interpretations of the character.
Oh, that's an incredible point. And every time you say B Earl, can I just be really honest with you? Not like to be like, but whenever I hear anybody say like anything Earl, except for maybe Earl Grey, I go like any sane TV literary person to Wyndham Earl.
Wyndham Earl every time.
Exactly.
Every time I call him, I want to call him Wyndham Earl.
Every time I want to call him B Wyndham Earl.
Yep.
Every time. And that is something that I've always thought maybe that Twin Peaks could have been made a little bit more beautiful by. Maybe the idea that there was more native voices producing the native imagery that was going into the identity of the Black Lodge.
Yeah.
And I really feel like there's a beautiful moment and a beautiful opportunity for so many of these brilliant artists. Like, oh, it's killing me. I can't think of the artist that did the Werewolf by Night story that we were obsessed with.
Yes. Give me a second. I'll find it.
To this day, I think one of the most effective storytelling artists I've ever seen in my life. A native artist. It would just be beautiful to get to see that. TK, while you looked it up, I just want to get, Jonah, your take. See that girl, watch that scene. Do you think she's a fashion queen?
I think she's every kind of queen. Between from her personality to her attitude to the way she's designed. We talked about it earlier with Robbie, but she's also someone who has a very strong visual identity regarding, especially because it invokes and incorporates a lot of her culture and what what she's meant to represent. That's something I love, that she forgoes essentially everything we know about a ghostwriter, which is the flaming skull, the whip. It's a lot of no, I'm still a ghostwriter. I'm still part of this mythos, but I'm doing it my way. And I respect that they took this approach with this character and really kind of delivered something that feels unique and special amongst the sea of this idea of we're not gonna do a Ghost Rider core. We're not gonna get like Green Lanterns of the Nova, but we're gonna have a bunch of them. They're all gonna look alike. But she's like, no, that's not what's gonna happen, babe.
TK, are we any closer?
We are so not closer. Let's just keep going.
We're gonna keep trucking. I really do love that though, because then if we're saying that they are like the Green Lanterns, but they're not, then we're just gonna pretend Kushala is like the Jade, right? Because Jade gets to be green. When I think about, because she gets to look different than all the others. Her powers are different anyway. So when I think about the other thing that Kushala offers, is Kushala offers duality in a metaphoric sense. All too often, we are hit with it is the duality in this one way. You're a gay person and you're also a superhero, right? You're Latin, but you're also on the Avengers. You like vanilla in a world of people who super like Rocky Road, whatever it is. We have these sorts of dualities that are just fictionalized versions of things that could happen in real life. And I feel like by giving Kushala this duality of both Sorcerer Supreme and Spirit Rider, at one point Demon Rider, but always Spirit of Vengeance, she actually allows for a sort of metaphor that's tougher for the Marvel Universe to draw. The idea of culturally drawn between two specific things. I can think of so few things that have so properly addressed this pull at balance. I mean, the only thing that comes to mind is maybe Troy Bolton's powerful turn in High School Musical 3 senior year, where his head is in the game, but his heart is in the song. I mean, it's that level of compelling.
If you can't get your High School Musicals right, don't invoke them, because that's High School Musical 1.
Fuck! But yeah, I mean, I think the fact that Marvel lets her be both things and neither one has been stripped from her, that is actually a testament to what makes her such a unique entity in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Now, I'm going to kind of move us to our next idea, in which I don't know. I think Kushala might be the only Ghost Rider omitted from the next thing we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
So I want to get everybody's kind of parting shots at Kushala. I mean, of course, because they're only good ones, right? Like they're parting shots like christening a boat. We're just all cracking bottles of champagne on her head.
Don't do that either,
Guys,
though.
don't smash your friends' heads with bottles. So my question for you guys is, what is your Kushala vibe? What is your walk away from this character with? For me, it's she offers the possibility that Marvel can see how there is intersectional cross-sectionality for these identities in the Marvel universe. You can be a sorcerer supreme and still want vengeance. I really think that is what's going to allow something that I want more than anything. And like, I'm not being, we make a lot of jokes. I do Troy Bolton bits, but like, I really think that Ricochet would truly make the X-Men a better universe. He is such a dynamic character. He is this mutant. He is so unique. He is such a special voice in that area. And I think Kushala makes it possible for a character to be spidery and mutiny the way, mutiny is a different thing. The way Nightcrawler is currently the uncanny Spider-Man.
And I think to that same point, intersectionality in the Marvel universe can function to allow Marvel to deal with intersectionality in the world at large, which I think is what a lot of readers want. Kushala, in such pain that she called for a spirit of vengeance and burned a village, was possessed by that spirit of vengeance, and then spent her life learning magic to possess, to control the thing that possessed her, so much so that she became Sorcerer Supreme. That's a whole life. That's saying, I grew up a Jewish man in a very conservative household where it was not okay to be gay, and I spent my whole life as a Jewish person trying to figure out how to combine these two identities. And then later I figured out how to come out as a gay. I'm picking two identities that I have because I don't want to be like, I'm a black man.
I was like, is this about like a fictional character called Mattis Yahoo? Like, because
I mean, yeah. But it's the experiences can be parallel. So if Marvel can really figure out how to honor the intersectionality of, yeah, exactly. Like I was not into superheroics at all. I didn't do anything. And then for some reason, me and my friends had a weird suicide pact type thing. And we all became spider people. And I got my spider powers because I was a mutant and I can't be a spider person anymore. So now I'm a mutant. Somehow that's got to cross over with an actual thing that people can look at and be like, I relate to that from my real life. So I think that's such a strong, important point, and it exists all over Marvel. So like it should be happening a lot, but Kushala is just such a perfect, stark example. She's also Mother. She's a better Sorcerer Supreme than Doctor Strange. She's a better Spirit of Vengeance than any of the rest of them. I mean, she should be running the show. I'm sick of this shit. Please make her president.
Kenny, change it to Catwalk.
When TK says she's Mother, what does that mean?
It means
She's giving.
Exactly. I think Kushala is kind of the perfect candidate for a game kind of like Ultimate Alliance, where that kind of has you have the popular character, you have the characters that are going to draw people in, but then you have characters like they took with Ultimate Alliance 3, where they, Elsa Bloodstone was part of the starting roster. At that point, Elsa Bloodstone really had not been seen for years, if not like small, brief cameos. And the way that Marvel kind of, was pushing Elsa in a way, I do think that they could probably do with Kushala, starting her off with the video game fan base of putting her in something like Ultimate Alliance or a similar Marvel game, making her really fun and exciting to play and get people excited about like who this character is. Like, oh, I want to read about her now. I think she's kind of a perfect candidate for something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was immediately like, look, she's in my game. Look, because I just think it's incredible. I made this point. If you want to know what Marvel is going to push big time as a movie or a TV show in about 5-10 years, go to Target or Walmart and look at who's on those racks. Then look at the animated shows. look at the ones that are aimed at 5 and 6 year olds, so that they're going to be the kids that are going to be 10 and say to mom and dad, that's what I want to wear for Halloween. That's the toy I want. That's the game I want. That's what I want on my phone. This idea of cyclical identity that sort of projects the future of the franchise really starts with things like games. You really have to think about the fact that gaming is $1 trillion industry, and the way that, the overall of gaming is bigger than Hollywood. So I think you're really right. If Marvel wants to start tapping some unknown potential on some characters like a Kushala, I think video games is where it's at. Now, okay, I love these next two writers, but I gotta be honest, I don't think the number writers exactly have the most caveat. I only have them up here because I love 1 million BC. 1000 AD is fine. He appears in 2 issues of Thor. The Jason Aaron run of Thor, big fan, pretty big fan. But I think Jason Aaron is probably the writer that has my most number one runs of a franchise. He has my number 3 run on X-Men, so But I really think that 1 million BC, this Ghost Rider is unique in that he doesn't have a society in which he exists to want vengeance within the confines of. We talk about things like morality, often in terms of morality and immorality. But one of the things that we leave out is the notion of amorality. The simple truth that some cultures just don't think certain things are bad, which is fine. We all think things are good or bad, even outside of the sort of norms of our culture. But that's what vengeance kind of often is iterative of. I have been slighted within my community. Now, don't get me wrong, 1 million BC does have a reason to be slighted, though so does the Star brand. He's a homo who lost his big, strong homo. He's very sad. But I think that that's something that makes 1 million BC very unique, that there is no culture to go, oh, he wants vengeance. And instead, it's just sort of like, nah, he's just riding woolly mammoths into hell.
Yeah, I love the design of this character, and I find this character very fun. I liked the 1 million BC Avengers. Ultimately, this project worked for me. None of it is right, but I had fun with it. Probably because I spent a lot of it with you guys, probably because it was a big show thing and we really covered the hell out of it. And I think this was really, like I said, I've said many times before, magnum opus level, for Aaron, and really important for people coming off of the movies potentially into the comics. That said, Aaron contradicts himself here. Aaron establishes that the spirit of vengeance comes from God, is a tool of God that doesn't exist until after the Great Cataclysm.
Shut the fuck up. Okay.
So, and this is, I'm like, I love your lore. Work with it. I don't know if Aaron just was like, nobody cared about my War of Heaven and Hell Ghost Rider anyway, so I'm just going to pave over it. But that was last week. I talked all the time about how that's what I hated the most, is that I thought all this cool work was done to talk about what the back end systems are that create Ghost Riders, like what the functionality of the power is, how you get one. And I felt like it was completely paved over. And when they started doing Ghost Rider series after this, it was never clear whether they were like what Mephisto was making them, why they were in hell, how they were ever considered to be a thing of heaven, if they were in hell. And it was a little bit of a bummer to realize that Aaron is contradicting himself in even creating this Ghost Rider and having no real language to talk about what's going on here. But this being a series about the platonic form of all of the Avengers and how those iterate throughout time and space, I would have been willing to accept a lot to make it work. Ghost Rider really got the short end of the stick in like all of the canon and lore that came out of this. That there will always be an Iron Man who sometimes might be an Ant-Man.
But it's always Tony Stark.
But it's always Tony Stark. That there is an Avenger Prime, that there's and this didn't create the God Quarry, but the fact that the God Quarry was brought back, there's just so much stuff, and it just was unfortunate that Robbie got a good deal out of it, but then, nothing after that, and the Ghost Rider lore kind of suffered. So mixed feelings all around, but I do love the design, and who doesn't love a flaming woolly mammoth stomping around, kicking shit?
I want to wear that. I think I'd look okay in that. I am that bald. That Bob Mackie style headdress on the left. Fuck, I want to wear that too.
Yeah.
Hats are hard to put back on there.
Life is tough.
Now, these Ghost Riders, they're really just sort of the... Okay. I'm so desperate to spoil Immortal Thor #4. I won't do it because it's not in the description. But Al Ewing made a decision that I could not agree more with, and think that there's canonical reasons that stretch back 20, 30, and 40 years, almost 50, to back it up. And I think that when you're Chris Claremont and they say, oh, Spider-Woman's failing, can you hop on? And he brings in some mutants. Or when you're somebody like Jason Aaron and you're writing Thor, so you bring in some Ghost Riders. The Ghost Riderification of Thor, that's fucking awesome, man. That's what we're talking about with the squad. I'm like trying to even think about how to put it, but like the Sorcerer Supremification of Ghost Rider, or the Ghost Rider, the Spirit Avengification of the squad. It's so hard to even try and figure out the order. And I really just think this represents an opportunity for Marvel to learn.
But they won't.
Of course not. Jonah, other than I feel like you have a new cosplay in mind, when you hear, because I know you've read a little bit of 1 million BC, just like a tiny little droplet of him in some Avengers. But, what does it mean to you that Marvel has said that this is one of 6 or 7 entities that exists through all of Marvel time?
It makes sense. I think the concept of vengeance, it dates back to very primitive eras and very primitive days. One of the first probably feelings that many of our ancestry beings on that tree were like, no, I want revenge on that guy. We're gonna get some vengeance on. He took something from me. We're gonna get him back. He's one of the characters I think it makes the most sense. The idea of the spirit can inhabit whoever. Spirits, and when you get into mysticism, you can kind of just hand wave time, because you could be like, they were always there. And it's like, sure. And you look at a place like Limbo, and Limbo is a liminal space in between time and space, that it doesn't really have a time, it doesn't really have a space. You can end up, 50 years in the future or 10 years in the past. It's, one of those things where it's, okay, I kind of get it. That being said, him writing whatever, it's not really a camel. The cow, the beast, is very amusing to me. But outside of that, I don't really think there's enough for really pulling me in.
I didn't include Cosmic Ghost Rider proper. He's in Challenge of the Ghost Riders, but I didn't think to talk about him uniquely.
I think that's okay. I think that doesn't really... We're getting to a point of diminishing returns when it comes to muddying the lore of Ghost Rider and adding...
Thanos and Punisher.
Yeah. Especially because... I actually did think about it last week, because I was like, there's something to the idea of this God created ability and the power cosmic, like something created by a godlike being. But that is not at all part of canon of Cosmic Ghost Rider. That he has both the power cosmic and the powers of a Ghost Rider.
And that is part of what kind of drives me nuts. Like if you're, it's so like, I'm not trying to give away an idea, but Marvel, call me because it's on air. So, everyone's going to know where it started. Right. I think that something that would actually really benefit Robbie Reyes is if Galactus came to eat Earth and Robbie was like, no, I have the power of the All Rider. Make me your new surfer, because there's literally nothing I can't surf on. There's nowhere I can't travel for you. Make me your new herald. Like, so then that there's this cosmic Ghost Rider that already kind of has elements of that cosmic power built in, I really think adds something to the idea that there could be that level of incorporation. And it is that same sort of branding that we're talking about, where it incorporates multiple ideas. That said, where I think Cosmic Ghost Rider fails is that it's Thanos' adopted son, the Punisher, is the Cosmic Cube Ghost Rider.
Yep. So I'm fine not to be covering it.
So then let's talk about the coolest comic arc of all time.
Yeah.
But it's barely talking about the arc. It's really more talking about all of the arcs that are this. Anytime the Ghost Riders race. It's so cool. Jonah, I believe we've shown you a Ghost Rider motorcycle race that involves Boom Boom riding around on a motorcycle through hell. Who doesn't love that? Challenge of the Ghost Riders was that, but for the Avengers and like actual stakes. I mean that really affectionately toward Ben Percy's story, because Ben Percy knew how to tell like an issue 6 and 7 of a random volume of Ghost Rider to set up a Wolverine arc later on. That's cool. This was like the universe might end. This was issue 25 of his Avengers run. Like this was a big deal. And it was magnificent. I actually really love this arc, even though it's kind of thin and none of the actual repercussions matter. I think it's silly if you don't have the Ghost Riders hop in a car like Mario Andretti. And for the record, Mario Andretti is only my race car driver reference because he is in both a song by Gwen Stefani and a song by Amy Grant, and that's two different sides of my faggotdom right there.
Respect.
Drive by Gwen Stefani and Good for Me by Amy Grant. Like, and they're like 20 years apart, which is in and of itself.
That's a career.
So, all right. Challenge of the Ghost Riders. What is it about Ghost Riders that we actually want to see them race? Like, nobody's ever like, I want to see all of the Captain Americas get into a shield throwing contest. But we want to see the Ghost Riders race. Why is that the thing? We don't want to see them have like a burn your head off. We don't want to see them have a get vengeance off. We want to see them race the ancillary element of their visual cue, of their visual identity. Why do we love this? Because it is my favorite.
Does that make the Ghost Riders the Flashes of the Marvel universe in a way?
Well, because it's definitely not Quicksilver.
Yeah.
All right. I love that. So, guys, what does it mean to you that the Ghost Riders' identities are wrapped up in racing?
I mean, go ahead, Jonah.
I was going to say, it's just one of those things that I feel like it's par for the course. It's right there. You should take it. We love races. Look at the success of something like Wacky Races that a lot of people watched on Saturday
Or
morning
Drag
cartoons.
Race.
Drag Race. We love race.
Mario
Drag
Kart.
Race.
Mario Kart.
Guys,
Diddy Kong Racing.
The next Mario Kart is one of the most expensive games ever produced by Nintendo, because the extent to which it costs to render racing, the undulation, the velocity, the engineering on these things, it really is a magic and a science. So, just bringing up Mario Kart, you're being, adorable, but like, that's actually a really great reference.
Well, thank you.
I'm so sorry. I cut you off, Jonah. You were saying.
It's just one of those things where it's like, it makes sense. Do it if you can. I really, it's one of those things of, okay, we got it, and just make it cool, make it fun, make it interesting. And I think of the Ghost Rider races that I've seen, they've been interesting, they've been fun, they've been this idea that really kind of challenges this concept of the Ghost Rider of like, no, they should be a skilled racer. I think that makes sense.
I also think, I wish they would move a little bit away from the idea of racing, or maybe fold in more the idea of riding. Like that this is the Ghost Rider, that a huge chunk of this, 50% of this, is the mode of conveyance, is the accessory object that the Ghost Rider bonds with that moves them to where they need to go, and how that being in constant motion is an inevitable part of being a Ghost Rider. And so this idea that the ride is just as important as anything else that the Ghost Riders will do, and that they commune, that they communicate, that they challenge each other via the ride. And that is because I believe that for whatever reason, through the magic of Ghost Riders, 1 million BC Ghost Rider on a mammoth should be no less in the running to potentially win a challenge of the Ghost Riders, even though obviously a mammoth goes slower than a motorcycle.
You've literally
Obviously.
You've understood.
You don't know.
You've literally changed my understanding of the Ghost Rider, because it's about the method of conveyance.
Yeah.
And if you're focused on the ride being about speed, where the fuck is it when the Ghost Rider charges his motorcycle key against the lantern light of the headlight of his motorcycle and says, in craziest vengeance, in weirdest hellfire, where is it in that he once says it's about speed?
Yeah.
So
no, it's about the ride.
Shouldn't he be able to win a baking reality show? Because it's about the ride. So he would take control of the blender and the mixer and the oven. Wouldn't it? It's about the method of conveyance. It's about the mode of success. If we continue to limit Ghost Riders by the ability to go very fast, then they're just Speedy Gonzalez. But, in some cases, minus the racism.
To Jonah's point, there should still be a race. Because that is because this is because this is a genre, because we love Fast and Furious movies. We love Mario Kart. We do love races. There should be a race, but then if you're going to tell me really great Ghost Rider stories, you need to elevate. And I think that is one place again that I think nobody has quite gotten right, including Percy. Percy has done a really good Blaze's Walk. Johnny just going through America, going to all these places.
Hanging out with Kevin Aquan. I got your reference.
Thank you. But he has missed the idea of the ride, of the fact that this is about the fact that you have no permanent location. You don't stop. You are always moving. The movement forward is part of the mission, is part of the identity of the Ghost Rider, and that movement and the mode of conveyance, all of it, it's all related. It's all tied together. I think that Aaron has all of the pieces on the board in a he threw them down and the arrangement was randomly very beautiful. I don't think there is a lot of intentional laying of these important pieces where they would most optimally tell you that story of what makes a Ghost Rider a Ghost Rider. And it's only unfortunate because this is the story, this Avengers run is the story of Robbie becoming the pinnacle of Ghost Riders, and this story is the most in the Ghost Rider canon that it gets.
I really think that's a great point. I mean, truly, I don't have anything more to add. That's the moment to go out on for me. I really think that says what Ghost Riders are, and I've really loved this journey because this has actually been like this has actually been like 2 years coming. In a kind of really exciting way. We've been looking at Ghost Rider in some form for, this run by Percy, but also, Dark Devil back in the pages of MC2. And any number of times I've mentioned my love of earlier runs of Ghost Rider or.
It actually started before that.
Oh,
it started with Kushala. It started with that Infinity comic. It started in like December of 2021.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's almost unbelievable to me that, Ghost Rider has come so far and yet so little has changed. It's sort of like, it's like Tasty Cake says, knowing is half the battle.
Mhm.
If you're aware of Ghost Rider canon, you can kind of read any issue of Ghost Rider. The canon is the canon, right? Jonah, do you have a favorite Ghost Rider, and is it from today?
Well, also the canon is a canon. Me when I'm at the circus, I see them about to launch that thing. My favorite Ghost Rider is Robbie. I think he's the coolest. I resonate with his story just a little bit more, and I like his jacket.
Yeah, that's why I have one. It's hanging over there, but it's a pretty cool jacket. And Jonah, if anybody wants to follow you on the interwebs, where can they find you?
You can follow me online anywhere. You can find socials at Peak Jonah. That's PEAK.
Oh, Jonah, it's been such a blast having you on tonight. We are always so excited to have you on, and we can't wait to have you on this weekend, inevitably, to talk about some pretty cool finales, some queens who stay true, north, strong, and queen, and north, and strong. I have no idea. I just listened to Brooklyn. But it had been such a blast having you on, and we can't wait to have you back.
Oh, well, thank you.
Talk to you real soon, handsome. So, everybody's trying to be really efficient. So Kevo, I know you've been you've been vaguely eavesdropping, like a spirit of vengeance of Noble Kale hiding inside of one of his descendants. Do any of these Ghost Riders even the fuck remotely interest you, or are you just sort of like, no, thank you, I'll stick to homosexual flamers, thank you?
I had said last week, and I still feel very strongly that I think you guys have definitely made a really awesome case for the Ghost Rider mythos in general. There was a lot that I didn't really know or understand about the Ghost Rider and, what their powers were, what really their whole vibe was, because I feel like for our generation, most of the understanding of Ghost Rider is Nick Cage. And so that's not quite the vibe. There's so much more beyond being so much more to Johnny Blaze. There's so much more to Ghost Rider in general. And so it's been really cool to witness this. I'm really glad you guys did this. I posted a whole bunch of links to previous Ghost Rider coverage in our comments, as well as posting links to the previous two parts for this coverage. So definitely check those out. And I am looking forward to our future coverage of this character and seeing what there is for this character in the future. Yeah, that made sense. I'm proud of that.
I love all of that. I'm also kind of secretly hoping that the next Ghost Rider is RuPaul's makeup artist, Raven, because makeup can be her vehicle. TK, this whole, 3-project episode is because you showed me that Ghost Rider wasn't just a dumb thing I liked, but actually a canon worth investigating. And, who is your Ghost Rider? How do you feel about vengeating? And, what is your take on, Vengina Dentata?
My Ghost Rider is Kushala, of course, all the way, forever. And I feel that there is so much here. There's so much to this franchise. I just really want Marvel to step it up and not be afraid. I know this is never going to be everybody's cup of tea. This does not have the universality of something like the X-Men, and that's okay. This has been such a fertile ground for experimentation. As I said, that they had characters like Alejandra, that they have characters like Kushala, because nobody's gonna yell and complain. I think take the experiments further, do more expansive stuff with Ghost Riders, put more people under the umbrella, tell new and different stories. I just think, regardless of the fact if you don't like Evil Knievel with the flaming skull, which is totally fine, there's so much here, and it's just been fantastic to cover it. I've had so much fun, and I really have to thank you for that initial request to read the Kushala Infinity comic, because without that I never would have taken this journey.
Well, I love being on this witch's road with you, Agatha.
Ghost Riders riding down the witch's road, come on.
I'm there. So excited about it. And TK, where can everybody find you online if they want to know more about you?
You can find me at TK Elemental. What about you, Nico? Where can they find you?
You can find me over at Nico Action, thinking that the best ever Ghost Rider is a one Mr. Robbie Reyes. And Kevo, tell me, where can everybody... Oh, wrong way. Kevo, tell me, where can everybody find... You're usually... And so everything's...
Yeah, no, I wanted to... I'm centering you for the moment, just because it's only a few more minutes. And I figured, you can find me on the socials at Kev O'Reilly, and you can find me on this program regularly. And in fact, I wanted to take a moment to draw attention and to celebrate, because, folks, we've been doing this live show in this streaming video capacity for just about a year now. It was November 27th. That we did our first video live stream broadcast. So right in between our last broadcast and this one is sort of our 1-year anniversary of this format. We've been doing our thing for even longer, but this show itself, all these lovely broadcasts, has only been 1 year. Can you believe it?
No, I truly, most sincerely kind of can't. It's just magical.
It's been a blast.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun. I can't wait to do so many more years, so many more broadcasts, check out all this awesome early comic stuff. And then eventually you're going to follow us right into us doing a lot of cool stuff, like when we get to doing our Mario broadcast. We had Jason Liu. We started covering Drag Race. We did Star Wars and Star Trek, all kinds of really awesome, amazing stuff. And we love it, and we're in. I definitely left us on JoJo Siwa. You go check it out for yourselves. So thanks, Tasty Cake. And we love having fans like you, and we love doing this. We're excited for all of our cool holiday content. We're excited for the new year. We're excited for so much and more.
Amazing. Well, 3 things you got to do. You got to like, comment, and subscribe, right? Those are the 3 things you got to do. But then if you got 3 more things in you, do me a favor. Stay safe, be brave, evolve daily, and we'll see you.